Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gold Ivy After Dark, as our guest likes to call it.
I think
this is probably the latest we've recorded a podcast.
Oh, maybe.
It's a Friday night here in Maple Grove. We have the one and only Lindsey Roberts.
Oh, I thought you were going to try to do all four.
No.
Lindsey Ryle Libel Roberts.
There we go.
Is in the house.
She's got it.
Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. How we doing?
Good. Weird to be back. I mean, not weird, but I am back.
You're back.
I was thinking about, was it 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
Or 3? 2. 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And you were hit. The people loved you.
Wow.
Yeah, so Lindsey was here for episode 118, and she talked about her divorce. And at the time, hardly anybody even knew about it. It was like this episode blew up because all of our mutual friends, college friends since were like, what? Because Lindsey was super private.
Yeah.
So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back. People listen to it every day. I think even if like you're not divorced or you've been through a divorce, I think people were really like struck by Lindsey's realness and her authenticity. I mean, that's what we love about her. Lindsey's the person that when you're in a room with her, like you never want her to leave. Like you don't want the dinner to end. You don't want her to go home. You want her just to stay. Like you want to book a vacation. So you just like get Lindsey unlimited. So we're so happy she's back because her realness is back to talk about something we have not talked about. We have not talked about co-parenting.
Oh.
And we have not talked about, you know, what that's like to be co-parenting with someone with communication, different parenting styles, the things like misconceptions maybe about co-parenting. And this is a huge part of mental health.
Yeah.
I was at church last night and they were saying within a 15-mile radius of my church, 50% of homes are single parent homes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it just made me think, I was like shocked by that number. 50%, like, wow, this is a lot of parents on their own doing this. And so we want you to get into kind of, you know, it's been 2 years. And I know it's hard to like recap a 2-year period, but when we left off, you and Mike were doing well, loving on each other as divorced people with 2 kids. Try and fill in the gap of where we've been the last 2 years.
Wow. Okay. 2 years ago. I'm still dating Patrick. Mike's still my ex-husband.
Okay.
I still have the 2 kids. Moco's thriving.
Oh, divorce done.
Moco's going to turn 2 soon.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
I don't have shingles anymore. I had shingles last time. That was terrible.
Yeah.
It was so bad. And I remember I was trying not to itch during the episode. It was so bad.
You're healthy. The dog's thriving.
Yeah. Okay. I think I have a new job. I do have a new job, which is great. Wow. There's so much that happens though in a 2-year time span.
Right. You want me to be more specific?
Yeah.
Okay. So at the time that we did the episode, you weren't even saying Patrick's name yet. Because not that it was super new. Like you guys were definitely in love and had a very like flourishing relationship. But I think it just was kind of like new for you to announce this to the world, right? And you didn't want the judgment of people or whatever.
Yeah.
So how has it been kind of juggling co-parenting with Mike and having this new relationship? Let's just get into that first before we get into like the actual parenting stuff.
Yeah. Wow. It's weird because it's like, yes, in the scheme of things, still a new relationship, I guess, with Patrick. But yeah, we're going on now 3 years or something, if that was 2 years ago. And yeah, with Mike, I think it's constantly like evolving. It's never going to, like, it's not like one day I'm going to be like, we made it. Like, that's not really how that goes. That's not how that works. That always changes. But I would say the whole group, I mean, my kids have like a bleacher full of people that come to their sporting events because we're all there and we're all together. So everyone's fine being in, you know, the area together when it's like for the purpose of the kids. I don't know that Patrick and Mike would like hang out on their own or anything like that. I would hang out with Ashley, but Ashley hangs out with my sister. So
Ashley is Mike's new girlfriend, newish girlfriend.
Well, yeah, not even newish. That's what's crazy because they were dating at that time too. Because I remember I didn't say their names either. But yeah, so that was 3 years ago too. Wow.
Okay.
So you both moved on fairly quick.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like if you remember, like I was like, we were like not together for the last few years, like together emotionally for the last few years. So I think by the time it was all said and done, it was like we had been single for years. So it was like, okay, let's go find people. Yeah.
So what was that like for you and your kids with the blending of the families? How has that been?
Well, that's kind of like, that's a really heavy topic right now. Not in a bad way, but it's very, very real. 2 weeks ago, Valentine's Day, Mike and Ashley closed on a house. So that still is a new thing because like there isn't a routine yet for the kiddos yet. So it's still really new. But you definitely can't be prepared for that one. And I don't think you can really be prepared for anything. But I was traveling for work when Mike sent me a text that they had put an offer on a house and it was accepted. And I knew they were looking at houses, so I don't know why it tracked. But I had like gotten back to the hotel room. I was so tired. And then I saw this text and I like lost it. And I was like bawling and I was like, okay. And I was like, I'm just so tired. I'm going to lay down. But I like totally cried myself to sleep, but not in like a pathetic way, poor me way. But I was just like, I think there is science behind crying and it does actually get whatever yuckiness is in your body out. And so I was like, I don't really care. I'm going to cry because I know I'll fall asleep then and I'll sleep.
What do you think that was? Like, what do you like? Can you put words on what was upsetting you so much?
Yeah, because I spent the next night writing it all down.
Good.
So yeah, I told Mike at the time, like, wow, okay, I'm going to bed. But really I was like, I've learned a lot of lessons and it's like, do not react. I used to be very reactive and I just think everyone could not react so quickly on things, a lot of things. And so I just was like, I have a lot of feelings, and I'm going to go to bed or whatever. And then my flight home, I wrote it all out because I was like, okay, you do have a lot of feelings. And like the first one that came to my mind, it's the grossest feeling to ever have, but I was like super jealous. And I was like, as I'm writing this, I'm like, I'm not jealous of the house. I love my home and where I live. I'm not, it's like, I was jealous because Mike gets to go home to Ashley every day. Like I was like, and I was already jealous of them because they live like less than a quarter of a mile from each other. And Patrick and I are like 35 miles apart. So I was like already jealous of that. So I like wrote that out. And then it was like, I'm so relieved. And I was like, oh, I'm so relieved. I'm relieved because Ashley is going to keep that house in order. And those kids, like, she's going to find whatever they're missing and she's going to wash their clothes. She's going to take care of them when they're not with me. So I was like super relieved about that. And then I remember being like, and then I was sad. And I was sad because it was like, I was sad the kids didn't have daddies anymore. Like they weren't going to daddy's house. They were going to like dad and Ashley's house. And I like still don't even know how to say it yet because it's still so new. But I was really sad about that. And so I like wrote, that out. And I was like excited for him because I was like, thank God, because I felt like such a jerk because like I divorced him. His whole family's in North Carolina. And so I was like, oh, this is so good because now he has like a family. Not that he doesn't have a family with me, but I was like, okay, this will be good. Like go be in your awesome home. But it's Ashley has 2 awesome kiddos and her mom. So there is, now I have to do the math, 7 of them, right? Did I do that right?
Yeah.
7 of them in the house. And so it was just like, oh, and I'm a homebody. So like when I'm home with my kids, it's so like quiet and we're not, so it was just like, I think I was worried about them, but also excited and whatever. And they were super, super excited. But 2 nights ago, I had both of them crying. And, they were really excited to move in and it is so awesome for them. It's perfect. But they were both crying because they were like, we don't get to see daddy. And they do. But in their reality now, like there is a lot more people in the environment, in the mix. And, like Ashley's going to help Mike out if she's off. Like she's like, I'll pick up the kids at school. But like, I think the kids just look forward to whatever parent they're going to be with picking them up for school. Mm-hmm. So like, I think Mike's just like, yeah, I could use the help. But to the kids, it's like, Daddy didn't come. And so just like all those learnings, and we're still learning because what has it been 2 weeks? Not even. 2 weeks today.
Yeah.
2 weeks today. So the blended family, sorry, back to you. I feel like I'm failing my interview. Like when you interview someone and you're like, you didn't even answer the question.
You're painting the picture.
You're also showing how many emotions you can go through in a 10-minute sitting or, with an experience that you can feel. It can be you can feel really, really sad and also really, really happy. Yeah. And it's just wild what us humans go through. And over the last 3 years, what you've been through.
Yeah, because then I was explaining to Mike my feelings, and then Patrick came back from traveling for work, and I had to explain it to him, and I was like, holy cow, like, but I think it helped them realize, like, this is not just Mike bought a house. Like, this is the third home that the kiddos have been in since he left the Cove house. So it was a lot, but every day it gets kind of like more normal.
And change is tricky for kids. We're both divorced from divorced families, and it requires you as children to be super resilient, right? And then you're paying attention to your parents because you're like, are we good? Is everything okay? I think it's good that you're so in tune with your feelings so that you can express them the way that you just did. Like Brooke was saying, you're recognizing the different emotions and why, and allowing them to coexist, which is so important so that they can just say they're sad and call you crying or, whatever, or talk to Mike and express, because I feel like as a parent, it would feel like, oh, I'm letting my kid down. They're sad, but in reality, it's pretty good for them to know, like, nope, you're still loved. You're still safe. It's just change.
Yeah. I mean, we were sitting, I don't know why we didn't sit on my comfy couch. We sat on the wood floor, me and Elena and Emerson, and they were both crying. And I was just like, letting them say whatever was coming to their minds, and just trying to get them to talk it out. Because I think the worst thing to do is to not talk about it. Because then I'm like, you're going to go to bed, and then now you're going to wake up tomorrow and whatever you went to bed thinking is going to be real, and I don't want that. And but yeah, I always want them to be able to share whatever their feelings are, because I didn't go through what they're going through, and so I'm trying my hardest to make it the best it can be for them, but they still have to be allowed to feel their feelings and whatever it is.
So that's your communication with them. What is your communication like with Mike, and how has that developed over the past couple of years?
Yeah, it's crazy because, Mike and I, we probably don't talk quite as much now as we used to when I was here like 2 years ago, because now I just think I don't know, you just kind of move on, but you still I doubt there's a day that goes by without a text message on something, like a kid-related item or something. I know with Mike, I'm a lot less reactive now, because of course he's going to do something that pisses me off, like duh. But where before I would like blow up and now I'm just like, I let it go because I'm like, is it worth it? No, whatever.
How do you think you got to that point?
Realizing how tired I was of caring about stuff I could not control. And I really struggled because I wanted my identity as mom to always be me, Lindsey. I never wanted it to be like Dad forgot my socks, and I always they would think I didn't give Mike the socks, so he forgot the socks. I hate my socks today, so clearly we're talking about a lot of socks. But I always was like, whatever happens, they're going to assume it's my fault or that I didn't give Mike whatever, but I realized my kids are older and they have a very clear, they know exactly who's doing what. So I know now, like, I'm mom and I won't ever have a confused identity to whatever Mike's doing. So I don't need to care so much about whatever.
Yeah. It also speaks to the therapy you've done too, just as I'm listening to you talk of, like, I can't fix them. It's a me thing. I need to journal my feelings. I need to cry it out. I need to let go of this identity of how it should be. Yeah. It's just, I think so much of suffering in the victim, it's poor me, but you are just that model of, it doesn't have to be. Like, I can take ownership. I can change how I'm feeling.
I also think too, it speaks to Mike because, you know, a lot of divorced people might be listening and be like, okay, easy for her to say, like they had a good relationship because like maybe their husband is super difficult to deal with and very direct or very angry or upset that they got a divorce. So you know what I mean? And so I think that must be super tricky because I do think if it's a pretty healthy relationship between the two of you, like one person can make a big difference in how that relationship works. But then other people have a spouse that they're leaving because it is so toxic or it's like impossible to communicate with this person or they need the distance or like we cannot communicate. We need to have somebody else help. So I'm curious what your advice would be for someone that's like been through like a stickier divorce of like, this person feels impossible to deal with. Like, do you have any advice for that person that feels like it's really hard to get on the same page with their ex?
Yeah. And I think it doesn't necessarily have to be like with your ex-husband either. Cause I ironically was talking to a coworker about something and I like said something to her and she was like, how did you know, like your therapy? I don't get it. And I was like, I have spent a lot of time figuring out how people's brains work and how people communicate. And this is what I would tell you. And what I would say was like, first of all, if it's difficult and their delivery, like you need to decide how you're going to take that in. And I know like sometimes it's hard for some people, like the bulldogs of the world don't want to back down. And I would say like, don't engage, like kind of let that behavior go in a weird way because it's like that made you mad. You just want to fuel the fire. So you guys just want to keep going back and forth till one of you backs down.
It's like the let them theory.
Yeah.
Like, let them.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Like I will be the girl backing down every day. I don't care. I'm not going back and forth. It is not like, I'm not going to continue on a like argument that goes and goes. Like I'll fine, you win. Like I'll back down. I don't care. Because again, unless it's related to like my children's health or something or safety, most of the time what they're arguing about is really not that important.
Like ego, pride.
Yeah.
I'm right, you're wrong.
Yes.
It's also in a way they want you to argue.
Totally.
So I think if you're arguing back with them, you're letting them win. Where if you say, I'm not, no, that's not worth my energy, that's going to piss them off even more.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just, I don't know. And I think that even when, you know, you want to just like deliver something and you know you can cut them so bad, but like, does that really make you feel good? I mean, I've met a lot of people in my life. I don't actually think there's humans out there that want to make someone's life terrible. I think people that act like that have stuff they haven't dealt with that's inside and that's their delivery. And so I try to just remind myself like, that's, you know, that's how that is. And don't let it upset me because I'm not going to be able to change it anyway. So why would I like, you just have to kind of back down. I think another thing with communication is like, I write everything down. I write everything out, but I also like give myself like 24 hours. If he tells me, or if I learn something or whatever, and it feels so big, I'm like, oh, I better not react to this today. Because tomorrow morning, I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, but in that moment, I may have been super upset about it. So I think that's really helpful. And let's be honest. We have the coolest thing in common ever. I mean, our kids, like that's what we have in common. Like there's not much like more in common that could be cooler. You guys have the same socks on? No. But you just have to remember that. Like, you don't have to be their best friend, but you need to be kind, patient, forgiving, because everything you're doing, you're teaching your kids.
Yeah, I'm curious too for them, right? You're blending these families and you have, luckily, Patrick and Ashley.
Yes.
Who are so loving to the kids and such loving partners to you both. So I'm so happy for you both.
Yeah.
But I want to address, you know, thinking about insecurities and thinking about jealousy in the midst of things, because even if you want nothing to do with being with Mike, there's another woman in the home with your children.
Yes.
And that's getting memories, that's getting experiences, and you're not in there. And I'm not trying to rile you up here, but
no, that's my middle name. Cool.
Put on words here. But I think that's something when I put myself in your shoes and I think about what would be really hard for me would be time. Like you had mentioned in the last episode, like being home alone and like, you know, you're used to your kids running around and thinking if someone else is with them right now doing anything.
Yeah.
And it's not me. How do you handle that?
Well, again, you can't prepare and it's not going to stop. Like Elena, she'll kill me someday when she hears this, but she has a little boyfriend or whatever. And he went over there to give her Valentine. Well, I didn't have Elena. She was there and I was like, but I'm like, no, this is not about me. This is her Valentine. So like, let it go. But you miss out on everything. I love Ashley. And she like literally the day after they moved in, she's like, hi, I need to talk to you about something. I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, what if she gets her period? And I was like, first of all, you better call me immediately. And she was like, yes, I will. But like, what should I want to have stuff here. Like, what do you say? What do you call it? And I was like, this is good because my goodness gracious, if Ashley wasn't there and it was Mike, like, I don't know that. I think it's better if Ashley's there. But again, like, I am going to miss out on stuff. I think Mike and I do our best to not keep each other in the dark. Like, if they're, you know, something goofy happens and it's a picture or it's a video, like, we're constantly like, look at this, or just sharing everything, because even if you're not there and you would have been there, you know, like, I don't want her to miss out. And I have heard Emerson say like, no, and I don't want to cause any conflict of interest or whatever here, but this little 8-year-old brain in the basement was like, no, you only have one mom. And so I like stuck my ear because I was like, what is he saying? And he was telling his friend like, no, you have one mom. And I'm like, and then he's like, you one woman births you. And I was like, Jesus. Like, but you know, so he was being factual in the fact that you are birthed by one human. But he talks about how he, like, I've also heard him say like, I have like 2 moms and 2 dads. And I'm like, it's a mom and a dad and a mom and a dad, not the other way.
Yeah.
But, so I think the more you can make it okay for your kids, and let's be honest, they're going to have more in common with people as they get older than people whose parents stay together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know why I just can't stop thinking about like those toxic relationships. And like, I love that you're an example, but you're such an extreme example of like such a loving person. Like, you don't want to hurt a soul. And so, you know, there's people that are like, I want to hit them where it hurts.
Yeah.
And I want to, you know, they just cheated on me, so I'm not going to send them a picture while I've got the kids. They don't deserve it, you know? Like, I think of like that toxic cycle, and I know that's what people deal with, and they might be the you, right? That's like, I just want this to get better. And, you know, and I think what you said of controlling what you can and letting go of what you can't, like, that's a skill and it takes practice, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I think it's really hard. Like, even when you're mad and you don't, like, so many things happen all the time. But like, at the end of the day, if I'm mad and I don't want to share a picture or whatever, I don't care if Mike saw the picture. Elena wants her dad to see the picture. So again, it's like totally removing yourself from the reason behind it all. Like, if I was married to Mike and we didn't have kids, sadly, I doubt why would we communicate? You know, we wouldn't have Moko. And we had kids. So like, like, he's not going anywhere. You know, and you just, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people either unintentionally or without taking time to figure it out make everything so much harder than it has to be. And I think it takes a lot of work, because you have to be okay. Like, you have to be okay. Well, I think you have to allow yourself all of your feelings. Otherwise, you're just going to turn into a maniac. But you have to find a healthy way to get them out and to work through them. And again, at the end of the day, like, I like to believe that everybody is trying to be and do the best they can. But I know that's hard for some people.
Yeah. I think too, if you listen back to your episode 118, you were fresh out the gate from working with Catherine. Mm-hmm. And that then till even now, you can just hear how you've evolved. Like you can hear that this is like, it's almost hard for you to reflect because you don't even remember that old person of you. Yeah. No, you're doing a great job of reflecting, but I think sometimes it's hard to unpack it because this is your new identity. Mm-hmm. You are a person that can let things go and you recognize the peace that's come and that your kids benefit from it.
Yes.
But back in the day, you didn't know how to talk and feel your feelings.
No.
I remember being roommates with you and like asking you a question and you were like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, like something would be hard for me. Like you could cry. Like you could, like, you're a sensitive soul.
Yeah, because my birthday and my name and everything else you just remind me of.
Lindsay's born on April 1st. When this airs, happy birthday.
Oh, cool.
Right now it's February,
That's
but this
fun.
airs, it's going to be your birthday. So your last year of your 30s. But I think it's cool to hear how you've evolved. And I think it really takes, and I think, especially when you're going through a divorce or co-parenting for years, you know, thinking like you're in this for the long game.
Yeah.
Having a professional help you. Having someone hold your hand and be like, this is normal. This is not normal. You need a boundary. Mm-hmm. You need to just be sad. It's okay. Yeah, you have a new boyfriend and your ex bought a house. It's okay to be sad. You don't even have to understand why you're sad at first. Just like let yourself feel. And I feel like a professional and like what Catherine did for you to help you kind of get to that point. So can you just talk about how you invested in yourself, how you made the decision to invest in someone that would help you kind of start this journey of understanding your feelings and how you were going to navigate co-parenting and divorce?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first started meeting with Catherine, like I didn't know anything. My life was like in a fog. I didn't know that we were going to get a divorce and all of the things. And so working with her, I feel like I had like so many different chapters because I remember her talking to me like, if you can look into the future, what do you see or whatever? And it was like, I was with somebody else. I feel like I had like a baby on my hip. The kids were there. Like Mike, like I was like, that's what I see. Like I see everybody together and everything fine. And, you know, I think she allowed me to take things like into practice. Again, like I didn't need to take ownership or like take in how Mike was feeling or Mike was doing or whatever. Like sadly at the beginning, I couldn't even like take in what my kids were feeling because if I took any more sadness and any more, I would have just not been helpful for anybody. But
because you kept it in so much?
Yeah.
You hadn't released it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then when I would meet with Catherine and she would like have me do the exercises and it was always just fascinating to me because I was like, wow, I had no idea that was like in there. And she really like triggered me being so curious about how our brains and minds and everything work. And I just can't stop learning about it. But yeah.
So you're saying she got out your true desires.
Yeah.
When you think about your ideal future, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Because I didn't know. And so I think, well, and also sometimes where I struggle is like, I know friends are amazing, right? But I now, if someone is like dealing with something heavy, I'm like, no, I really don't think you should go talk to your friend about that because accidentally and organically, there's always bias and you're always going to like, I don't know, I'd probably be like, what, Justin did what? Like I would automatically take your side. Sorry, Justin. But you know, and it's like a professional won't. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it's so important when you're going through anything in your life that is so big, you need to have someone who knows nothing about you.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll ask you questions and they'll help you understand your life in a way that like you have to retell the story. And sometimes like they fill in a gap that you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that was happening. You know, like you said, you didn't know what you wanted. And so I just feel like at any point, if anybody's confused about their next 5 years, where they see themselves, if they're happy, if they're feeling some type of like, about where they're at in their life, they're unsure of their next move, or if they even like what they're doing, like have a stranger ask you some questions. It could be Catherine, it could be a therapist, but like you said, someone that doesn't know you because you'll have to explain who you are, what you like, what you want your future to look like. And a lot of times you haven't even thought about these things, which is nuts.
Yeah. I want to know what are some practices that maybe Catherine or you did in the midst of going through the divorce and after that you still do now? I know you mentioned journaling.
Yeah, I do a ton of writing stuff down. And I do a ton of like, if I'm starting to have like a negative thought, I try really hard to like not let it keep going. Where I would always just like assume the worst thing was going to happen. Now I don't. But again, that like takes so much work. And I think allowing myself to feel, because Catherine really pulled that out of me and like let me feel. And so I just allow myself to feel, give myself the patience, be okay with it, forgive myself. I'm going to screw up. I think, I don't know, probably every day. But, and I think just knowing and like trying to think of the good and like what can I do to make it good, I think is important. But again, like as I'm like saying this out loud, I wanted happiness and love. And so it's hard for me to, I don't know how I would tell somebody who maybe doesn't hope for happiness and love. So it's like they need to then find their happiness and then go for that, because their happiness and love is probably different than mine.
Well, and everybody wants that though, but it's like you're letting go and pushing aside all the distractions and getting it out of the way. I'm like, the goal is happiness and love here. Like like you're saying, you're letting all the other things go so you can be, you know, it's like you've cleared the fog of all of the distractions and getting in the reacting and all of that so that you can just like have your eye on the prize.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some misconceptions of divorce, co-parenting. Like, you know, I'm married. I've never been divorced. I got a taste of it, right, in my childhood, but every divorce is different. Co-parenting is different. Are there any things like people say to you or like things that you're like, oh, everybody thinks this about co-parenting or divorce, but it's like not really true?
I feel like there's like different like categories. Like I feel like there's misconceptions. Like if you're meeting somebody and you're like, oh, that's my ex-husband, they're like, ooh. And I'm like, no, it's fine. And then they're like, you know, it's like immediately everyone thinks horrible. And then, or they'll be like, oh, sorry, I said his name. I'm like, okay, it's okay. So I think that's one, like people automatically jump to that it's horrible and it's not. And then I think, you know, misconceptions with co-parenting, I think people still assume that I'm going to like control what Mike is doing. And I'm like, no, no, I'm not going to, I can't, like, it's not my thing anymore. So I think that's a big misconception. I think everyone's always like, you're so lucky you have every other weekend off. And I'm like, it sucks though. And I don't, because Elena does 757 things, but because I don't miss it, even if I don't have the kids, like I still go to their events and stuff. But I think people are always like, oh, that sounds so nice because you have every other weekend off. I'm like, it's not nice. It's horrible. Yeah. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's great, but very rarely. So I would say that's a big misconception. People always assume something really bad happened. Like as far as like getting a divorce.
Like the straw that really broke the camel's back. What do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your responses to these?
To which one? Like just when people are like, it's terrible. I find myself, I'm like, oh no, it's totally fine. We're like, we get along. We're fine. It's fine. And then people just see us together, like at her game or something. Like I had somebody come up to me and she is separated and she was dating somebody and she was like, okay, I've seen you here with Mike and Patrick and Ashley and I want to, she wanted her kiddos to meet who she was dating. And she's like, how did you do it? And I was like, I recorded a podcast a few years ago if you want to listen to it. So I think people just see us all together and then they're kind of like, it speaks for themselves. I think, honestly, the way my kids behave, the way that Mike and I behave, it speaks for itself. You know, like, I mean, Emerson goes to a Christian school, and I remember when we were getting divorced, I was just like, oh, this is like, I feel like they're going to be so mad at us. You know, and so like when Mike and I sit next to each other in the pew at Emerson's church service, like the past, they still love us. Like it's fine. Like it just speaks for itself. And, you know, sitting at conferences and I mean, we have some of the best, like parents of kids, you know, that are friends with the kids because they will text Mike and me and be like, hey, is Emma available to play tonight? And it's like, oh, you know, like he's not at my house, he's at Mike's, and then Mike will answer and like whatever. So it's like, it eventually speaks for itself.
There's a few things that you've said that I think are really important. And one is not having to control everything.
Yeah.
You're not in charge of the narrative of what people think, what people say, how Mike acts, what happens when your kids aren't with you. Like you've let go of that control. And I think that has to be really hard. Like I know I would really struggle with that. I would really struggle with like, well, what time are you putting them to bed? They seem crabby. Did you?
Oh yeah.
Did you feed them a bunch of sugar for breakfast because their tummy hurts? You know, I could just like see myself like
needing to control
because it's like as a parent, you are in control. You are making sure they're nourished and they're like not exhausted and, you know, and so I think the fact that you've been able to let go of that, like, you know, it doesn't serve you, but is there anything that kind of helped you along that path of being like, this isn't good for anybody for me to feel like I have to control?
When I started letting it go, like I can't control that and everything, I really focused on like, okay, I have 48 hours. So I'm going to focus and I'm going to be the best mom I can be for 48 hours. And I think in that time and like engulfing like everything of me in the kids, like that really helped because then it would be like, it's okay, whatever happened. And I know at the end of the day, my kids are going to be more or less than somebody else, but my kids are going to be so well-rounded growing up in two totally different houses. Mm-hmm. Like Patrick is very, he's a minimalist with OCD. There's nothing in his house. Like if you don't go for a cracker,
jealous.
Don't go for a cracker though. There's no crackers. But you know, so he is polar opposite of Mike. And like, he was with me one time and I was dropping the kids off and Mike's garage door opened, which you remember Mike's garage. Mm-hmm. And Patrick was like, oh, can we get out of here? And I was like, what? He's like, I literally like, my heart. Yes. And I'm like, like, I just laugh, right? Cause I'm like, oh, but I know at the end of the day, like it is going to make them well-rounded. Mm-hmm. I already know which kid vibes in which, you know, Emerson doesn't like stuff messy. Elena, I'm trying. I'm working on it. Like Patrick's ready to, cough drops, all the wrappers are in the cough drop. Like, why aren't they in the garbage? You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where like Emerson is like nothing, everything is clean. So it'll mold them and it's going to make them well-rounded and they'll probably be better off with their college roommate because like versus living with just one type.
Yeah, that's super true.
For sure.
Yeah.
And do you feel like you've been more resilient because of your parents' divorce? Is that a loaded question?
Yeah. Yes. Short answer, absolutely, 100%. I think it forces you to be, I don't know if agile is the right word, but a people person. You know, you can get along with anyone because you've had experience with so many different type of people. I also think mentally you will go down a rabbit hole of pain and dread unless you choose to focus on the good, what is available. And yeah, you learn a lot about the human brain and how people work and why they do things. And I think throughout the years, it's just forced me to consistently find the good. And that's what I'm hearing you say too, is there's always a choice.
But in it, I'm starting to see everything come out more and more because my kids are getting older, you know, and like they would come home from dad's and be like, Dad makes me do everything and I have to, you know, I don't know, put my dishes in the dishwasher. And because when I can take care of them, I'm going to take care of them. I take care of everybody. That's what I like to do. Like I almost threw away your Go-Gurt wrapper when I walked in and I knew you'd yell at me. But
you want to come to my house?
Yeah. But it is in my, like, I feel good if I can take care of people. And I know like that's hard for other people to watch, but I see it paying off, you know, for last week when the kids didn't have school for however many days because it was so cold. I was in back-to-back meetings. Like I'm talking 8 to 5 and I got both kids home and I'm like, this is great. And I ran out in between one to fill up my water and Emerson had pushed up a chair and was washing the dishes that were in the, I almost did start crying and I stopped and I like told Emerson and I was like, I think I might cry. Mom might cry and it's not a bad cry. And he was like, why would you cry? And I'm like, this is the nicest thing someone could have done for me today. Aww. And he was like, well, you're busy. You can't do it. I never asked him to do that. I'd never like had to discipline him to do that. I think he's seeing that and learning that, you know?
That's what I was going to say too about divorce is like, as a kid of divorced parents, you really read people, right? You're entering a new environment. Okay, what's the vibe here? How do we do things? How do we like it really helps you read people and then acclimate to a new environment. And I think every parent needs to know, no matter how old your kid is, they're so much smarter and capable than you think.
Totally.
Like, you know, at 7, I'm doing my own laundry. I'm doing dishes. I'm doing those things. Like I had to be really like independent and figure out how to get things done, right? And as much as it can be challenging or like maybe as the parent, like your parents, you know, dad had you do what or didn't have you do what? It's like, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
As long as it's not a safety issue.
Correct.
Right? You know, like you said.
Yep. Yeah. And it's hard because I would do things differently, right? But I can't control it. It's going to happen. Like I don't have any control over that.
Something I think too is when you are on so many different type of people and you're young, it allows you to see what's important to you and the type of adult you want to become.
Totally.
Oh, you know, I think, and maybe that's divorced parents or not.
Yeah.
But I think just looking back on my childhood, like from my experience and my grandparents that I was around, and I really became close with extended family because I didn't have a relationship with my dad. And I am so blessed that I became close to so many other people because of a divorced marriage, you know, like, and I think looking back, I'm like, okay, I know the type of mom I want to be. I know what I'm cool with, what I'm not, the type of home I want to have, like what values do I have? I think it instills values at any young age.
Totally.
And you are so right, a well-rounded human.
Yes.
And the social skills compared to parents, everything's perfect. Everything looks great on the outside.
It's not. Then I think I tried to always like hide it for so long, like pre-divorce with the kids. Like I would never let them see me upset. But now they are well aware. I mean, I don't have like temper tantrums, you know, but like if I'm sad, like I will openly say like, I'm feeling really sad right now. Yesterday, day before, Elena was like, I wasn't sad. She was sad, but she's like, should we go outside? Because won't the sun make me happy?
Smart girl.
I was like, yeah, we need more than that. But, you know, so like, I let them see it and I let them cry and I like remind them like everything is okay to feel. Like sometimes with Emma, because Elena has like, she cries. Oh, she's hard-headed though too. But I try to say like, your feelings are okay. What's not okay, like don't punch your brother, right? But you can be mad at him, you know? So just like, and it starts young because I think that behavior as an adult is then the person who's screaming at the other person. Because as adults, most of the time people stop punching people. But they probably are still doing that type of behavior just in a screaming way.
Yeah, they're angry. They're not getting their feelings out in a healthy way.
Yeah.
How do you communicate that and teach that to your kids of feeling your feelings, but not staying in that emotion?
I have a preteen girl, and so do you. And so we're doing a lot of this right now. But, you know, I just had to talk to her about like crying. So she had a soccer game, championship game. They lost. She was very mad and was like crying and then had anger. And she's like, we came all this way to lose. And I was like, take your cleats off and you will not go back on that field. And I was, you know, because I was like, no. And then she calmed down. She went back on the field. And then after the game, she was like, I was crying. And I'm like, you can cry. I don't want to hear you say something like that. I was like, because this is how that came out. That came out like you were mad that your team didn't play good or whatever, and you had your family here watching you, that delivery was terrible. But you can absolutely cry. I said, I get mad and I cry. I'm like, I'm working on it. I'm getting much better. I was like, so it is okay to cry. And then you need to move on. And then that night she like kept going. Cause then she's like, I was like, maybe when you feel that, cause she's like, I don't want to cry at soccer when I'm like so upset. And I'm like, okay, so let's think of something else you can do. Like, what if you walk to the sidelines and just like yell? And she's like, you want me to yell? And I'm like, well, pick up your soccer bag and just yell in the bag. No one will know it's you. You know? And I'm like, you gotta get it out. Because I think the biggest thing, like it's a pet peeve of mine. Like when anybody would tell my kids like, stop crying, don't cry. I was like, don't say that.
Yep.
So I'm like, you can always cry, but then you need to think about why you're crying. Think about what we can fix, what we'll do different next time. And then what I say a lot to like Emerson and her, and I'm like, okay, we were sad now for, 20 minutes, but now let's not take that sadness into the next 2 hours that we have before we have to go to bed. So I usually with Emmer, I'm like, shake it out. Let's go do something else. Just getting them out of that, I think is important, but I don't know. I feel like there's like similarities with coworkers that I feel like I have with my kids. So I find myself saying things to my coworkers that I like also use with my kids. And they're like, why do you? And I'm like, gosh. So then I remind myself like, yeah, my kids had a small challenge, but they're going to be great.
That's the thing. Like it's continual practice of these, like Brooke said, social skills. And like you said, really well-rounded. And I think about that too with like, people that they know they need a divorce. They know they're in a toxic situation and they're like, I don't want to ruin my kids. I don't want to get a divorce. I don't want to ruin my kids. And like, I just want to say to you, like, the worst thing you can do is stay in a really toxic relationship, an abusive relationship, an unhappy marriage where and I'm not saying like everybody get a divorce. I'm just saying like, don't ignore it. No. And your kids are going to be fine. Your kids are going to be great, actually, because this is an example of a married woman and something I realized this week. Justin and I got in an argument in front of Cora before school the other day. And I realized how little this happens and how like poor at conflict resolution, like she probably sees, because we just don't fight that much. We'll like say little things, we'll have disagreements, and then we like, we figure it out. And so she sees that. But this was like, I walked away, I went upstairs, I was crying. He came up, apologized. I wasn't ready to talk to him. He had to come back down here with her. She came upstairs crying. She looked scared.
She thought you guys were,
She was like, I've never seen this before. And I'm like, well, then we're doing a bad job, because I want you to know, like, I'm married to him, but if he says something that's rude to me, I'm still teaching him how to treat me. Mm-hmm. And I left that space because I refused to be spoken to that way. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't ready to like just take his apology when he wanted to. Yep. And she watched it and she was like, I had to console her and give her a hug because she was like scared. Mm-hmm. So then I came back down here when I was ready and I was still crying. I was still really hurt. And she was looking at me like, when are you going to be done with these tears, lady? I want to see this get better, Mm-hmm. And I was like showing her, I'm like, Cora, I'm still like really hurt and I'm just letting these tears fall because I need to release this. And it was like, after she left, Justin and I were like, we need to do a better job of showing her repair, because like we repair with them, we apologize to them, but like kids of divorced parents have to continually see and shift and change and have hard feelings and work through them. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to like talk to people that are like considering a divorce and they're so scared what they're going to do to their kids. Like, you can be a Lindsey. Yeah. You can work on yourself through this. You can make mistakes. You can be proud of the way that you get professional help, how you admit that you have feelings of jealousy or sadness or anger or whatever it might be. You can sit on the hardwood floor with your kids for some reason instead of your couch. But getting down with them and feeling things, like it's okay. They will be great.
Yeah. And I forget, I don't know, there's science out there, but it's like, as long as a child has like one safe parental figure that is stable in their life, like from like the attachment theory and all of that, like they'll be fine. Like kids don't actually need to. Again, I'm not saying go get a divorce or anything, but you know, like you need one person. And so if that's what I would say to anybody who, if it is like a situation where it's like your kids, they will be better to have one loving, safe place.
Yeah. And what you said earlier, the goal is love and happiness.
Yes.
And when that is the goal, you will figure out a way to get there. You will do what it takes. There are so many books. There are so many therapists.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to stay stuck.
No.
And so to anyone listening that feels stuck, I hope that you feel that hope.
Yeah.
I want to add peace to that too. Because I feel like sometimes to find love again, or if the word love is like, I'm trying to get away from this loving, like this marriage, you know?
Fair.
But I feel like love, peace, happiness, like those are like the three people always like come back to, right?
And the letting go of I can't control you. Like that is so freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find myself like when someone is harping about like what somebody else said and I'm like, we're still talking about that. Like let it go.
It's hard for people to let it
It
go.
is so hard. Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you for being proof that you can let go of that control, and that if the goal is love and happiness, like you can have it. It's
Totally.
possible. You are in such a loving relationship. You are so taken care of. You are fine on your own, but you are great with Patrick, right? Like you have a great relationship with Ashley. Like it's possible. And like, I just want to speak to all four of you, just doing such a wonderful job, and your kids, just, they're such loving kids too. But I love that you're an example of the possibility and that you're willing to share it, because this is what's so powerful is like people have these experiences and like they keep it to themselves, and it's so rare.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be. Like this can be the norm. Like
It
this
can be.
how people feel and function and go through life.
Yeah. I mean, I will never, like, yes, I think I have it really great. But again, I think people think that you're going to like graduate, but you're not. Like there's always sad things that are going to come up that are hard, sad. It's not easy. I know being married is not easy either, even in a wonderful relationship. So I also like want people to know like getting a divorce isn't the easy way out. I can promise you. And so again, it's just, you have to take it at the end of the day. You have to take ownership. Like, how do you want to live your life? Do that. And then even if you have an ex that lives life completely different than you hate them per se, don't waste your minutes with your kid talking, worrying, anything about their time. Just make the kids' time with you the best it can be. And they will figure it out. So you just, I think, I don't know, it's hard. Sometimes I want to like shake people and be like, you can have a happy life. You're choosing to not. So that's hard to see sometimes, but.
Yeah. Okay. So if you could give 3 gold stars in this season of life.
This season? Okay.
What would they be?
I would say, write it down, write it out. It's like walk it out, but like write it out.
I'll walk it out.
Yeah.
Write it out.
I write it out. I would say forgive yourself and be patient with yourself, and forgive the other person and be patient with the other person. And then the 24-hour rule. It's a big one. And it doesn't have to be 24 hours, because I know I used the example, but like give yourself an hour before you react to something that causes a super reactive feeling.
It's so funny because we're talking about co-parenting and we're talking about these skills, but like these all improve your health. Like we just read a book and we just talked about it in the episode that's out this week, where it's like, if you hold these things in this resentment, you will get cancer. Like it's like, if you start to do these things, you will live longer. Like it's not just your mental health that'll like, you'll feel a little bit better. Like you will physically have less ailments.
Yes. Do you know fast walkers live? I'm going to live forever. It just came out that if you walk fast.
Why?
It's like proven that like your bone, like I'm talking when you're probably more like 40s and 50s. If you have a naturally fast gait,
okay,
there is science behind that you will live longer, and it has something to do with I'm gonna be 452 probably, but it's like your bone density and all the things, mental health, all of the things.
What about your veins?
I can't talk about your veins right now.
Not the expert on veins. We got the wrong girl for that one.
My vein doctor yesterday told me that walking was great for my veins. But I bet resentment and anger and not feeling my feelings are causing my veins to swell.
Absolutely. Are you writing it out?
No shit. I think I need to.
We need to go to the rec room. Wreck-It room?
Oh, the Wreck-It room. Yeah. I think anger is one of those things that you really don't realize.
It is so bad for your health.
Should we go scream in a forest?
See, like, I don't even need to do that, but there was a time.
What I'm saying is, like, people, I think it becomes so normal, or you just, like, don't realize it comes out as sadness. But I think everyone would benefit from screaming and punching their pillow and...
Yeah, I think you just have to find out what it is. Like, because I remember screaming into my pillow when I realized I was going to get a divorce. And then I walked like a crazy person. And then...
Fast walk?
So fast. You just got to do something. You literally have to like work it out. Emotions move through your body.
Yoga.
So, yeah.
All right. Unleashing Ivy. Surprise questions for Lindsey. Do you know what you want to ask her?
I better take a sip of water. I'm scared of you guys.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
My question.
Oh, boy.
A couple years, you're back in this seat. Hopefully a comfier chair.
Yeah.
What topic?
I got a 40-year-old bum almost. No, I'm 38. I'll be 39.
What topic do you want to be discussing? What new season of life are you wanting to enter?
In a couple years?
Yeah. We've talked about divorce, co-parenting. What's next?
Well, I mean, I'd love to like, I don't know if I have to be married again.
Okay.
But I want to be, hopefully it's Patrick, but I want to have it like full circle, damn it. Like I want a man to live in my house. Amen. Anybody out there, if Patrick doesn't make a move. I'm just kidding. I love you.
This isn't my question, but why haven't you guys moved in together yet?
It's funny because my kids ask Patrick all the time. So like, it doesn't make sense for me to move to
Are
Bloomington.
you guys too messy?
He gets frustrated. He gets frustrated with Elena's rappers and crap. Yeah, for sure. But I'm not, I'm not messed. Like we're not, he could have it so much worse. But, the kids ask him all the time. It doesn't make sense for me to move to Bloomington because my kids are going to school and Patrick's house and, obviously my house. He loves his house and it's great. But so he wants to do some work there. I always thought it was just Finn, that he wouldn't move in for Finn, but
that's the dog.
That's his dog. I have Finn all the time when he travels for work, so it can't be that excuse anymore. I don't know. And when we're not traveling for work, we're together every day. Like if I have the kids, he's at my house, like whatever, we're together every day, but we're going back and forth. But man, it's getting old.
Yeah. You're ready.
I forgot my glasses. I forgot my glasses and my jammies. You should call. I was devastated. I was like, I don't think I can go to bed. I was so upset about it. And I like, he could tell like, oh my gosh, she doesn't have jammies or her glasses.
This is 39.
Yeah. And I literally told him, I'm like, when we were going to bed, I'm like, okay, please remember if there is an emergency, like I really can't see, like, please hold my hand. It was real.
Don't leave me.
I'm like, I was like, you have no idea how blind I am. Like, please don't take off.
And your relationship
You're riding Finn out the door. All right. My question is, I know, everything works out in the way that it should, but if you could think back to, this experience of this divorce with Mike, the biggest mistake you think you've made in this time period, like what would you say that is? And what would you do differently?
Gosh, the biggest mistake since getting divorced.
Really, let's just say
your whole life.
Let's just say in the process of right before your divorce and to now. When you had a feeling something needed to change.
I just wish I would have addressed my feelings way earlier than I did, but it's hard because it's like I don't want to say that because
You didn't know how.
well, and it's like how early? Like would I not have Emerson? Like so I wouldn't say that's necessarily a mistake. I would say at the beginning, when I would still like get mad mad because of something Mike was doing, and if I would like talk poorly about him, I hate that I did that. And then I feel like I wish I would have somehow, and I don't even know how to say it, but like I kind of turned into the tough one. Like we're getting, divorced and we're doing this. And so I feel like I wasn't as maybe like, just like soft and slow and like there for Mike as maybe I should have been. And maybe he's like, I didn't need you. But yeah, I don't know. Otherwise, I don't know. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that though. I think that's good advice of be as compassionate as you can.
That was the word I was looking for.
As compassionate as you can in the midst of it. But I mean, I just hope you're proud of yourself for how you've navigated. I feel like you've been very compassionate, very patient, very loving.
Patience.
It's hard for you to find a mistake. Like that also shows me like you're not beating yourself up about the little things, right? Like that's good. It sounds like you have a really good relationship with your inner dialogue too, which is great.
Yeah, no, I don't want to beat myself up about anything. Because again, I just go back to like every minute you take talking about something else, being angry, it's like you're wasting a minute. You could be doing something else. Like, I don't know. I just really, and don't get me wrong. I when I'm, writing out my feelings, I don't view that as like wasting time. Because first of all, I'm by myself usually. Yeah. And it's like super therapeutic to put your thoughts in a pen. I can't spell, but like get it out on paper. There, like I encourage every single human being who next time has like any type of anger feeling or you're frustrated or you're mad or at anything. I do it at work. Write it down. It will change your life if you start writing stuff down.
That's so true.
Okay.
And I make my kids do it too.
Great advice. All right.
Yeah.
I have another one if you want me to do the third, unless you have one.
I can do 4. Cool.
Yeah, we can. Okay, final question. Since we had you on before, we always like to change this one up. And so, this is co-parenting. When I think about that, I really, and like you do too, and I love so much that you've made this about the kids, that's what it's all about, right? Like that's what we're worried about. We want to do it right. So we're co-parenting, we're blending, we want to make sure our kids are okay. Hopefully that's the focus. So final question, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, what do you hope your kids look back at this time period and say, I'm so proud of my mom because...
That's a hard one to answer too. I want them just to be like, my mom always put a smile on her face and like, they will know that I did everything I possibly could to make sure they had a good day, regardless of what was happening. And I think they'll be proud of really like I feel like I've had, now that you've said like patience, like I can't see very many people having all the patience I had with some of the things. On both sides, with Patrick and with Mike. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that wouldn't have had the patience that I have. And hopefully they're proud, like, my mom was a good example for somebody. But
especially because you're putting it on air right now. Like, we're documenting this time. I'm so happy you're doing this. Like, I can't say it enough. I think when you have a profound experience that is so raw, so real, this is why people keep sharing it.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage everybody that's listening, if there's something that you found that's valuable in this episode, share it with someone that's not even divorced. Share it with people to know, like, to have more compassion for people that are going through a divorce, or your friend that's considering it, or if you've been through it and you're on the other side, like, share it with someone that that, you know, ultimately the goal is love, happiness, peace, you know, these kids, that putting the focus on them, like that is just so beautiful that you keep doing that. And just the way, and I knew you were doing it, but the way you said it is so powerful. So we're just so grateful that you're sitting down and putting it in words from the paper.
Thank you.
Into the microphone.
To the pod.
Yeah.
And I just want to add that I'm really proud of you. And I'm so glad that we are friends and that you're an example for people. I think like it's one thing to hear it on a podcast, but to like have you as a personal friend that's like just gone through so much. And you're just a ray of sunshine and so funny. We don't want to let you go. We don't want to see you go, but I just hope you're proud of yourself. And I'm so happy that you're this happy. And the only reason you're this happy is because you continually choose to let go of control. And, you know, you're finding the good at every turn. So I'm just so proud of you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so for your piece of gold, your quote, please send us off with that.
I want to send you guys off with the thought that if you are blending a family, getting a divorce, you're bringing other people into your little people's worlds. I think every single person in this world deserves to have as many people love them as possible. And so if they have 8 stockings at Christmas, I think that's beautiful.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.
Oh, I love that.
Stockings.